All right. Hello. It's Doug Cunnington here. Welcome. And you're here for the webinar on the SEO plan for niche sites. I see we do have a couple people on. I think some familiar faces, at least a couple. Hey, Leo, what's up? I see Mark is on, Sean, and other Sean, spelled different ways. That's cool. And Wendell. So we have a few folks on. As always, at the beginning of a webinar, one should make sure that people can hear you. So can you hear me? And you can just let me know in the chat. Just say, hey, I could hear you. And I think this is actually going to be a pretty intimate group here. So you can let me know in the chat where you're from. And actually, you could let me know if you have like a niche site that you already have out there, if you're just looking to learn a little bit more about niche sites or kind of where you're at. And I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, Sean says that you can hear me. That's fantastic. So yeah, and I'll explain a little bit more why it's going to be a small crew today, which will be cool. You know, maybe there'll be more questions, or you could ask more questions if you want, and that sort of thing. So, in funny story, so this particular, the topic that we're going to go over today, SEO plan for niche sites, I did a very similar, in fact, we're going to be working basically off the same presentation as the last time. But basically, no one could hear me, right? No one could hear me for like 20 minutes, but a lot of people stuck around until that presentation was done. But essentially, yeah, we're going to do it again overall. So if you were here the last time, you may recognize the presentation, and you know, we're doing it at a different time of day today. So hopefully that doesn't scare anyone off. But like I said, if you want to mention where you're from in the chat and sort of your experience level with niche sites, that'll be super helpful in going through the presentation today. So let's see. Couple, you know, we'll hang on a couple moments before we get started, just to give people a few minutes to join up, since we're only three minutes after the hour. Wendell, welcome from Canada. Thank you. So I've been doing webinars for the last several weeks, and actually like almost 10 weeks in a row or so. I think I may have missed one, but I think I was sick or something like that. I have a good excuse. But anyhow, the point is, I've been doing these webinars pretty often, and I've been trying, and they're no pitch, by the way, like I'm not going to try and sell you anything after this, even though the SEO plan for niche sites, that's really ripe for me to try and push some affiliate products, but not today. I'll spare you that for now. But the point is, I've been advertising. Actually, I'm not actually running ads to get people to sign up for these webinars. I'm just, you know, participating in some Facebook groups, of which I'm not like hugely active in. I'll just pop in every once in a while, but I have a good relationship with the admins and the owners of those groups. So I'm sharing it in those groups. In previous webinars, right, I would actually send it out to my email list to let them know about it. But since this is sort of a repeat of a different webinar, or at least the same sort of content, you know, every webinar is a little different because of the presenters and, you know, how much time I have. And like I said, the last one was kind of a disaster, so I kind of sped through all the material. So the point is, I didn't really mention this one in as many groups as I normally do. And then I didn't send it out to my email list. I just put it on my website. So I expect that, you know, there's going to be way fewer people, and I could definitely see there's far fewer that have actually signed up today, which is interesting. So it's good to test, and there's a couple other tweaks that I did as well. But anyhow, you could also let me know if you're familiar with Niche Site Project, and then I'll go ahead and get started with the presentation in just a moment. So I'm going to stop sharing my video, and then I'll share my screen. Take just a second for us to get rolling. displaying a a website. This is actually a guest post that I did with Empire Flippers earlier this week. So if you haven't taken a look at it, do have a look after the call if you have a moment. It's over, let's see, my keyboard has stopped working on me here, so that always makes it exciting. Let's see what we can do. Okay, I think it worked that time. Okay, so if you have a chance later, you can take a look at this page here. I think it went pretty well. Quite a few comments on there, and we can get into the presentation now. Like I said, I'm Doug Huntington, and I'm the founder of Niche Site Project. And people can hear me, so that's really good. So I put this quote in here as a bit of a reminder. So all generalizations are false, including this one by Mark Twain. And you know, a lot of what is presented in this deck here, it's really generalized, right? So I hit the tip of the iceberg for most topics, really. I was going to say the most effective topics are, you know, they could have a whole course dedicated to them. So, you know, some of the more simple techniques don't have nearly as many nuances, but the really effective ones do. So like I said, you know, there's a lot of generalizations in here, and hopefully it'll at least give you somewhere else to look if you need to. Okay, so like I said, I'm Doug Huntington, the founder of Niche Site Project. That's my dad and I in Yellowstone, which is actually only about an hour and a half, and Old Faithful is maybe like 2.5 hours from where I live. So pretty crazy. I didn't actually go to Yellowstone until I was in I guess it was about 20. But to get there, you know, it's like a 20-30 hour drive. I can't quite remember, but it's quite a road trip from Georgia. But now I live in Montana, so it's a lot closer. So just, you know, why should you listen to me? I do have a past track record with niche sites. I've coached dozens of other people to, you know, start and optimize their own sites. I've done quite a bit of guest blogging talking about, you know, my experience with niche sites and project management. I actually have a PMP certification that's Project Management Professional, and I did software project management for about 10 years in the corporate world for, you know, management consulting companies and a software company. So it's an interesting mix of experience. I've been featured on a few places, most notably Social Triggers, Neil Patel and Backlinko, Charles Float, and some other blogs and podcasts in the past. I do throw this timeline into each of the presentations, just as a reminder, right? It's good for me, and it's good for people to see that, you know, this is sort of a long journey. It's a roller coaster ride, and you can see the you know, the peaks and the troughs here. There's some, you know, quick success that you can get, and, you know, a lot of times what that leads to is some sort of a Google penalty or some other sort of issue, and, you know, you can sort of gain your footing and then, you know, lose momentum again. Eventually I got laid off from my job after working there for 9 years, so at the same company. So it's not as secure as it feels. And then, you know, that gave me a lot more time to work on niche sites, and things are going pretty well at this point. So last little point here is December. My wife actually got laid off, and coincidentally, she started a new job this week. So that's kind of cool. But as we go through, you know, there's another little dip that I need to add on here because Amazon changed their affiliate commission structure. So that's always, you know, something you have to deal with. The affiliate program can change. You don't control that. So obviously working with Amazon is quite secure in many ways. Amazon is not going to, just disappear, and they have a pretty strong relationship with their associates. But they do have quite a bit of leverage. So if they change their payout structure, there's not much we can do about it. And it turns out, at least for me, there's not many other places to turn where it would actually be more profitable. So that's a whole other story. But the point is, niche sites are a long-term sort of project that you can work on. And, I've had the ups and downs, so I've learned a couple things along the way. I will mention, I usually hold the Q&A pretty tight towards the end, but since there's only a handful of people on, feel free to ask as we go. I'll get to the questions. If I happen to look over and see it just at the right time, I will go ahead and answer it as we go. And if there's something in here, by the way, that's confusing or doesn't quite make sense, just ask the question. If you have it, then that means, other people probably do too. All right. So I usually put a little section in like this: why niche sites? And by the way, does anyone have like a niche site right now already? And if so, is it profitable? I do try to, tailor the presentation and what I mention and what I spend time on based on, who's attending. So if you do want to mention that, I would appreciate it. And, I'd be able to tailor this presentation a little bit better. I know there's a delay, so I'll just pause for a moment. Okay, so why niche sites? Overall, I believe niche sites are the best way to get started online. So you could essentially, for a couple $100, launch a brand new niche site that you have to pay for hosting. That's where the money would go to. Hosting and probably a premium theme. And essentially, you could launch a site that could earn you a full-time income. It'll take time. It'll take a lot of work. And if you want to do it a little faster, you may need to invest more than $200. You may have to, accelerate the process by adding more content a little more quickly. You could, however, write it all yourself if you wanted to. If you're a professional writer, you could pull it off. And essentially, I got started with niche sites. Originally, I worked with AdSense sites, and it didn't really work out that well for me, but it showed me the ropes, and I learned some core skills that I was able to transfer over to Amazon affiliate sites, and I've stuck there. And I actually believe, the perseverance and I guess grit, if I can be so bold as to say grit, to stick with it. And then each time I made a mistake, I learned something from it. Some of them were very costly mistakes. Others were just silly. And overall, it's helped me, make my money from niche sites and teach other people how to do it too. So like I said, you could learn lots of stuff along the way. You don't want to make mistakes per se, but if you make mistakes, you can learn a lot. You can learn, just standalone skills that are useful, like SEO, like that's applicable to almost any business, especially, smaller businesses. If you're working at a big corporation and you're, say, a project manager, you may not need to know SEO specifically, but knowing the background of it is definitely helpful. You learn about, setting up websites, WordPress. I didn't know anything about WordPress when I got started. Learn about domains and DNS and other hosting aspects and just a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's a great way to learn lots of stuff. So we'll get into it, the SEO plan for niche sites. And I see Wendell asked a question. So Wendell's question is, are you diversifying your monetization in the future because of Amazon's new structure? No, I'm not. So I can give you a little more information. So the thing is, Amazon's payout structure was high. It was high. It was like higher than the competition. So if you look at, say, like Walmart, their affiliate program roughly pays out what Amazon's new commission structure does. Additionally, I have shopped around. It depends on the niche, by the way. So I have shopped around quite a bit and looked at other affiliate programs within my niche. And there are some, decent programs out there. But the thing is, the ones I saw paid out between like 5%, right, which is not much better than an arbitrary average on Amazon. So 5% to about 15%, I think, is what I saw. The thing is, people buy so much other stuff on Amazon that there's no way possible that I could make up the volume of purchases. So it turns out for me, through some analysis of the data and looking at a year's worth of data, I can see it's not going to be more profitable, even if I went to say a affiliate program that paid out 15%. The math just doesn't work out. So for me, diversifying doesn't necessarily make sense. It just makes me look at optimizing what I have. I have a very solid amount of traffic. So it's a matter of me, getting more people over to Amazon or increasing the traffic. So good question, Wendell. And I think, most of the people that I only have a small set that I have like really good insight into. But in my mastermind group, everybody's doing over 5 figures a month, some over 20K, over 30K. And essentially, they're looking for some other programs, maybe for one-off products and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're just looking to optimize what they already have. Okay. So I do mention this. Link building is a game of incremental gains. So 1% per day adds up over time. Yeah. So if you could actually get a 1% gain, that would be really good. It's actually harder than that. But the point is, each little thing that you do can help. And you're probably not going to be able to do everything super fast, right? This stuff takes time. And in 2017, it takes a lot longer than it did in 2013 or 2007. It was the Wild West. At least that's my understanding. I wasn't around doing this stuff back then. Okay, so here is the overview. 6 main steps: social profiles, internal linking with silos, and I'll explain a little bit more about actually using silos or not using silos. Blog commenting, guest posting, Web 2.0 blogs, and private blog networks. I will mention the 2 last techniques, the Web 2.0 blogs and the PBNs. They are effective. They work wonderfully. I don't use them because it does introduce more risk, which I'm not interested in. Risk. I mentioned before, I'm sort of looking at a longer timeline at this point. When you have a longer timeline, you can make other decisions that have longevity in mind versus speed. So if you look a little bit further out, you're going to have an advantage over people that are trying to do things fast. They will cut corners, and you'll be able to, again, if you have a long enough timeline, you'll be able to come out on top. Or at least, good enough. Okay, so first off, social profiles. These are great because you can essentially create them as fast as you want. Here are some of the high, the top of my list is a better way to put it. So, these are just sort of arbitrarily chosen. I guess the ones on the left are kind of the ones I would definitely do, probably LinkedIn also and Pinterest. But, depending on what the niche is, you may actually go to other social profiles. The key here is to, make sure you link back to your website. I actually remember an early coaching student of mine from a couple years ago, she created the social profiles, but she actually neglected to, put a link for her domain in there. And that's the idea, right? You want to have the domain in the account and in the profile so that it's actually a link back to your site. Yes, it is a nofollow link. However, it does show some presence online. And, at some point, if you wanted to become active in whatever social social account, I'm drawing a blank on the word. It's been a little bit of a long day, but the social network, right? So you can go to the network and become active on, say, Facebook and build a Facebook group, or, just connect with people on Twitter and use it as a networking opportunity. But overall, you don't have to hold yourself to that. In fact, I am not a big fan of social media, and I'm like withdrawing more and more from social media as I realize it's either a distraction. If I'm trying to actually do some work on Facebook, I will often get pulled away and start looking at silly videos that are not helping me reach my goal. So I'm not a huge fan of social media in general, but they are useful for certain things. And in this case, you can get a nofollow backlink. Again, it's totally natural to create as many profiles as you want. If you imagine a small business or a big business, they could set up all these accounts on one day, so it's no big deal to set all these up at one time. And it's sort of the core foundation. So, right, I start, set up the website, get things settled over on the hosting side, and start creating the social profiles. So like I said, be sure you add your link in the profile. And other than that, just remember, you don't have to be active there. You can just have the link there and just have the presence. It'll come into play later just to add authenticity around your site, so it looks like an actual site when you ask for guest post, which is step 4, I think. Okay. Internal linking with silos. So I do mention silos specifically, and I even have a picture of grain silos there to drive the point home. But one doesn't necessarily have to do this tight silo structure. I will mention some of the good benefits that you do get with a silo. So you control those links 100%, right? And you control the relevancy because, well, after all, it's on your site. So it should be relevant to the niche and the topic in general. The sort of downside, right, with a very tight silo structure is that you kind of have to architect the whole site ahead of time. So you have to have a good understanding of the content that you you have on your site, that you will have on your site, and like anything that you may plan in the future, you kind of have to imagine what you could do. So the thing is, it's hard to do, right? And I have seen a friend of mine, this has been a couple years ago, but right when he and I were getting into silos, he was basically following the silo structure by the book, right? And he ended up having a URL that was I think 4 or 5 layers deep, right? So it was like topic 1, subtopic 1, / subtopic 1 / subtopic 1 / so you get the point. It was really long, and at the end of the day, the actual URL was super long, 100. I mean, you couldn't even tweet it, right? It was so long, you couldn't even tweet it. And the thing is, the actual article didn't even line up anymore to what the original topic was. So he sort of lost touch with what was important there. And in that way, it's kind of, I mean, in most cases, I wouldn't go more than 2 layers like this. And then honestly, I've moved away from this tight structure. So I may do a couple silos on my site, if I know that I want to have a certain section with a specific number of these subtopics. But most of the time I will actually just post a post up, and then I'll go and just interlink the site very deliberately. And these sort of illustrate the silos, by the way. So in this case, this is your home root domain, and then topic 1 and topic 2 and 3 are like aligned to the first layer here. And these are pages, right? So these are pages, and these are all pages too. And the thing is, this is the parent, and these are the children here of topic 1, and these subtopics here are the children of topic 2, and so on. So that's something that you can select, within your WordPress page editing screen, and you're able to select, what is the parent of a particular page, and you can layer this very deep. I don't know what the limit is, but it is very, very big, right? More layers than you want to have, and that's how my friend got into a little trouble. Now, the thing is, when you do the silo structure, you deliberately link. You remember a minute ago I mentioned you're linking in a very specific way. So these pages up here link down to all the subtopics, and vice versa, right? They link back up here. So what you end up with is, this topic page here ends up super relevant to the subtopic and the topic, and that's a very good thing to have. Additionally, these parent pages, these are sort of the top level pages, they link to each other, and then they link to the home page too. So you can see there's arrows going back and forth indicating the links, and everything's interlinked. And sometimes you could even have a subtopic from one topic going over to its uncle or aunt, whatever you want to call it, but it's the parent's brother or sister over here. So it could link up here, and of course, if it's relevant, you could link across these layers as well. The thing is, when you go to the post structure and you're just posting a post instead of a page, if you just interlink with this sort of methodology, you end up with the same result, at least from my experience with a few sites. It works out quite well, and you don't have to actually plan the site out as much. Okay, and Wendell asks, why are pages and why pages and child pages in comparison to category and subcategory? So so full disclosure, right? So I'm not 100% sure, because I haven't worked with categories and subcategories so much. What I do know is a category page and subcategory page in WordPress, I think it depends on your theme, and certain themes may or may not actually display the content. You could end up with content plus the links that you want sort of out to the other post within the category and or subcategory. But overall, pages essentially, I don't know if they give you tighter control, but I guess the end result is more predictable and not dependent on the theme. Again, I will emphasize, I've never tried it with a category and subcategory. I don't think it'll work in the same way. Part of it is I did a tremendous amount of research when I wrote this post here. So if you want to read more about it, you can check out WordPress-silos on my site. But essentially, I don't think it'll work because people would have said, that was an option when I was doing my research. I will also say, I know that Charles Float has looked at it a little bit, and I don't think the same benefits can be gained like they used to be for having a silo structure with pages like this. I think you get most of the gain with the thoughtful interlinking of your site and really being obsessive about it, right? So I'm only listing a few of these links here, but you could basically go crazy and just link all over the place where it's relevant, of course, but that sort of interlinking is a really good thing. Okay, and Wendell, if you have a follow-up, just let me know. And Leo asks, when you use the silo structure, would the topic one page, would it be a content page or would it be more of a list page with summaries and links to the subtopic pages? Okay, that's a really good question. In most cases, when I've done it, it was indeed a content page and it had, 5,000 words. And within those 5,000 words, there would be, links to the other subtopic pages. Some people do have more of a list page, but at that point, you're giving up a bit of, some of the advantage that you have by creating a site like this. So when you link all these posts, all these child pages up to the parent page here, you end up, passing, that's like 5 super relevant links going up here. Sure, that's like a reciprocal link, but the point is like you're adding relevancy about that topic, and that's a good thing. So I think that answers your question, Leo. So for me, I do the content because why not, and it may be, I'm looking at my desk for examples. I have some Pilot rollerball pens here. So, if this was like G2 pen right here, these may be different colors. So all of a sudden you get like, all this relevancy. And for this, you would want to rank for the, Pilot G2. And then for each of these, it would be like black Pilot G2, red Pilot G2, blue, and so on. All right. And guys and gals, if you have more questions on the silos, let me know. All right. Let's see if anyone else was able to join us. A couple other folks. So, and that's Karn. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right. The third step is blog commenting. And essentially, people don't really like blog commenting. A lot of folks will say it's a waste of time. I'll tell you why I like them. And I will mention they are natural, right? So if you go look at, for example, this post that I was talking about here, this is a guest post that I did on Empire Flippers, of course. And people commented on this and then I replied back. So it's like totally natural for bloggers. Sorry, I'm scrolling so fast. It's totally natural for bloggers to go out there and comment on blogs. So totally natural thing to do. Yes, it's true that these are nofollow links, but it turns out it doesn't really matter, right? So it is good to have, this links back to my site. It is good to have like some link diversity from different domains, even if it's nofollow. In fact, nofollow links are a natural part of your backlink profile. The biggest advantage is around how they help you network, right? So for example, like this guy Vladimir here, so he commented and, this is not even my blog, but he commented here I answered his question back. He could shoot me an email now, and he has a connection. It, number one, shows that he reads my content, and he actually commented on something specific that he quoted there. So that's good. And actually, it's a great way to network. And if actually kind of funny, someone sent me an email the other day. They were like, hey, I wrote this post about I wrote this post about guest posting because I feel like there needs to be more thorough information out there. I saw in one, this is an email that someone sent me, by the way. And they said, hey, I saw you linked to one of Backlinko's, Brian Dean's post on guest posting, and I think mine's better. And it's 12,000 words long. Let me know what you think, and why don't you link to it and share it? Oh man, I'm even going to do a blog post about this. So the thing is, he sent me this email to give me like a reading assignment. 12,000 words is like 25 pages, by the way. So he sent me all this content about something I already know how to do. Thing is, I've never heard from him before, ever. He doesn't read my blog, and he was just like basically trolling the internet to find places to send that email to. So he didn't take the hint. I was like, hey, what's the summary? But the point is, I'm digressing here. I'm sorry, folks. But if he would have like commented on a couple blog posts of mine, super simple, would have taken him a couple minutes. You do it over a couple weeks. I would definitely remember who he is and have like some relationship with him. But I just got a random email from some guy. Hopefully he's not on here. No, okay, cool. He's not on here. But basically, I got a random email, and he didn't network at all. He just asked for something. So anyway, the point is, if you leave blog comments, it helps you network. It's really a smart thing to do. And I'll mention more when we get to the guest posting part, which is coming right up. If you do want to get more into the blog commenting and see how I do it, you can check out, there's a video here. It shows you how to find blogs to comment on pretty fast. Okay. How's everybody doing out there, by the way? All right, we're going to get to guest posting in a second, but I need to drink some water. So that's just for a second. And I see Sean asked a question here. This is a really good question, Sean. I'll hold it until the Q&A session at the end, but that's a good question there. And let's see. Moving on to guest posting here, so I can share it again. Guest posting is natural. They're the primary do follow links that I get for my niche sites, and I keep mentioning the guest posts that I'm doing on like Empire Flippers and other places that I've published my stuff. And I obviously do the same techniques on both my niche site and my internet marketing site. So same stuff. It works everywhere. You get better as you do this stuff in different places. All right. I hope I'm getting better, actually. Okay. So these are the best kind of contextual links that you can get as far as, links that you can control and sort of manufacture. If you get natural links, that's great. But I can guarantee you that it's rare that it happens in a natural way. There's so much content that's being published right now. You either have to sort of be in the top level of your niche, whether it's internet marketing or some other sort of niche, whatever it may be. You have to be really like the top 1%, top 5% to actually get natural links. So it can happen, but it's pretty rare. So to get links, you kind of have to go out there and generate it yourself through guest posting. For me, I definitely do get links to affiliate content. I do mention it must be worthy. So that means you can't have just garbage content, right? It needs to be somewhat valuable and at least appear to be helpful, right? It doesn't necessarily have to like solve all the problems. The other part is if you write a good guest post or have one written, I don't do the writing myself. I have some writers that help me out. So essentially, if the writing's good, then you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to get those links to your affiliate content. I've only had my links removed a couple times, and it was most likely due to, subpar content on the guest post. So I know that a lot of people, even in some of these webinars, people have mentioned that they've had a hard time. I'm just pouring water here. Sorry for the sound effects. People have mentioned quite a bit to me that they've had a hard time getting links to their affiliate content. I believe a lot of the time they don't even try, to be honest with you. Upon further reflection, I realized a lot of people just they didn't try. They just thought, hey, no one will link to that content. In fact, I used to say that, by the way. But the other part is, once I ask a couple other questions, it's clear, it's subpar content on their site, it's subpar content on the guest post. And when that happens, you're just lucky to get a guest post at all. So the other part is, when you're doing the networking through blog commenting, as I mentioned, so you do these blog comments and now you have a relationship with bloggers. And I mean, it turns out, even if you have a fairly active blog with a good amount of traffic, very few people comment, right? So one of my niche sites, it gets, 2,000 visitors a day, right? I got maybe one comment a week or something like that. So not many at all. Not many at all. When you look at the actual percentage of people that leave a comment, it is alarmingly low. Of course, I don't ask for any of the comments in there. But the point is, if you comment on sites, people will remember you. The blogger will remember you, and you can email them and, continue to build that relationship and ask for a guest post. Now, this is the part I haven't mentioned. I didn't mention in the other presentation. So in my course, 5-figure niche site, I actually have the exact template that I used, but the template actually holds the process of what I do. So it's roughly a 7 to 10 step process. If you go and look on my site, you can find the process, right? The thing that's in the course is the spreadsheet that I use to manage the process. So it takes you step by step. And I think, Leo, you have access to it if it's the, Leo that I know. Leo, you have access to it, and it does take you step by step. It's like version 2.0 of any sort of tracking spreadsheet you've seen for guest posting. This is the next version, and I ran through it. Now the thing that, thanks Leo, I appreciate it. Now, I hired 2 VAs that didn't do SEO before. They didn't know anything about it, and I kind of prefer it that way. I'd rather work with people that don't have preconceived notions about what's right and what's wrong. I'm a know-it-all, as you could probably tell by this whole presentation. I'm a know-it-all, and I don't want people to second guess the process. So, I hired my writer and editor, and I brought her on, and I was like, hey, follow these 20 steps. You're good to go. And so the point is, I'm digressing quite a bit, but the whole point is, I had her spend more time on commenting. So we did 3 blog comments per post using the method that I list out here. So 3 blog comments, not per post, but per site. So I would find one, and then she would log it, and then she would, a couple of days later, she would comment on another post, and then a couple of days later, she would comment on another post. So 3 comments. Then she would sign up for their email list, and then she would email them, hey, I really like your site. and some compliment, right? She would also mention something around, hey, I'm thinking of starting a site, or I'm trying to do some writing, and if you have any tips or pointers, I'd really love to hear it. She would get back emails that were like a page long, right? So people are now invested in her success in some way. The best case scenario, and this happened a couple times, the blogger would say that she should guest post on their site. She laid it out in such a nice way that it was their idea, and it was awesome. The reason why this is so cool is through that process, like I was able to get, I think it was like 23 to 25 guest posts in about 6 or 7 weeks or so. Nothing happened for like 2 or 3 weeks, by the way. Really slow start. But at the end, everything sort of clicked and popped. And, I'm not sure who all's been following the 500K case study, but that's what all those guest posts were for, by the way. So Leo, I'm sure you're familiar. And, I had a target to get 45 guest posts to replace the PBN links. And in the last week, we closed that out. So actually, there's an update coming out on that pretty soon. So if you haven't followed it, there's like a 4-part series that I published in around January. And then I'm going to publish like another 4 in this coming week here. So, okay. Last thing I'll mention here is you can link to other guest posts, right? So this again is like the 2.0 version of guest posting, right? Like all content out there, no one really cares about it. So if you don't build links to your guest posts, no one else will. So what you can do is when you're publishing future guest posts, you can link to your other guest posts. And guess what? Those are super easy to link to because often it's a relevant topic out there, and you're going to be able to link to other sites, and it's not going to be a link that the blogger is going to remove because it's another prominent blog in the niche. So that works great. And what I often do is I'll put like 1 to 2 links to my affiliate content. Most of the time, just, 1, but if it's relevant, I will put 2. And then I'll put like 4 links to my other guest post, or 5 links, whatever. Like put as many as you can. If it makes sense, a well-written article can link out dozens of times, and it's totally okay. Although I've probably only done a dozen max. And if you're particularly good, this has only happened once. A person that I actually linked to one of my guest posts on her blog, she noticed that I linked to it because she saw traffic coming to her site through it. So she thanked me and asked me to do another guest post for her. So it's the kind of thing that you get through networking is not what you're going to get if you just blast out 300 emails. I learned that the hard way. So I used to send out just tons of emails, and nobody likes to send out spam like that. All right. We're coming up on about 10 minutes here, and I think the timing is going well. If you do have questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in, and I'll sort of hold them till the end at this point. So Web 2.0 blogs, these are free blogs that you can set up. It's like WordPress.com, it's Blogger.com, Blogspot, if that's still around, Weebly. There's an endless number of these. There's the good ones, there's not as many, right? Probably a few dozen of them, but essentially you can create these blogs for free and publish whatever you want there, as long as it's, not violating the terms of service. The upside is you control the backlinks 100%. You can use that to sort of alter your backlink profile in a, sorry, I'm having a issue here. I got busted here. I was popping open a beer and it foamed up on me. Here I am making a mess. Sorry about that. Luckily you couldn't see the spillage. Okay, so essentially you can create these blogs, link to whatever you want, and it's a great way to get links to your site when you're first getting started. So for a short time, I actually created these on my own. It takes a decent amount of time, and back actually it was like 4 years ago, you could publish essentially spun content, and I did that. I actually had like an article spinner type software, and published garbage out there, and linked to my sites. And I don't know if it helped actually. Like the spun content, I'm not sure if it really helped, because the thing is, these links are really weak. There's like no authority to them at all. Now, you can hire companies to do it for you, like the Hoth. They actually do a great job. They have a pretty strong and huge PBN that they're able to boost the authority for these Web 2.0 blogs. Now, the thing is, at some point, the power goes away. The links get de-indexed. Really, it's the Web 2.0s. Either they get de-indexed, or the Web 2.0 sort of service like WordPress.com realizes that it's a spammy type site, it doesn't get any traffic, and they get rid of it. It's usually pretty obvious for them to find it. Typically, I believe they do some type of a manual review, and when they see that it's using keywords that are sort of affiliate based, and they see where it's linking to, and there's only a few articles that were published like really fast in the same couple of days, they'll basically delete the site. If you don't know what you're doing, you could actually get a penalty. A lot of that could be around, over optimization of anchor text, or just essentially like putting too many of these up in a short time so that it looks unnatural. Now, I will mention that a lot of people still use these. As I mentioned, they are effective and they do work. If I was going to do it, I was going to say that, the Hoth is who I would use to get it done. They have like different versions, and the platinum version is what I used to use back in the day. Okay, so private blog networks, or PBNs. So this is probably like one of the most effective ways to build links. Again, you can control the anchor text and the links 100%. They are typically very powerful, although it does depend on the history of the domain. So these are powerful because these are domains that either expired, or people can get these sites and domains through an auction. But the point is, these domains have a lot of backlinks going to them already, so you don't have to worry about that part. They have a lot of links going to them, so when you link to your money site, that authority is passed over to your site. Thus, you can rank your affiliate pages, sort of on your own terms. The major downside is you're at, I wrote high risk for penalties. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a high risk. You're at a risk for penalties if you don't do it correctly, right? So there's tons of mistakes that you can make. And I know, actually, Leo, you'll remember a couple weeks back in the inner circle session for the course, we went through just how easy it is to find a PBN and then dissect the network. It's actually kind of a fun, addictive process. It's not overly constructive, but when you start seeing, people's money sites, and then you start, logging the network, like you can find someone's network if you look. So there is a downside. The point is, even if you do a decent job with the implementation of a PBN, it is risky because people can, find your stuff and report you, essentially. So it can be confusing to set up and manage. When you're just dealing with like one site, it's pretty easy. You can go find an expired domain right now, buy it for, $10, and then put it on a hosting account that costs you, $2 or $3 a month, and put up some content, right? Not that hard. You can do that in about an hour. But the thing is, if you're building a network that can actually rank a site, you're going to end up dealing with some sort of management issues. So all of a sudden you have to, let's say you just have 15 sites or so. So all of a sudden you have to make sure, you renew those domains. You have to make sure the domains are kept private. Your contact info is private. You want to make sure that, content's published out there and that you're not linking to too many of your money sites to, make it super obvious. So essentially you have to know exactly what you're doing. Overall, it'll be expensive, right? So there's no way around it. Again, if you're only building like one site, it's not overly expensive, right? Not a huge deal. However, if you're building a network, and you're actually getting good domains, you're going to have to buy them from an auction. You don't want expired domains at that point. You want to get like a good domain that has some authority, that hasn't actually been expired, and that's just transferring hands, that you can get a hold of that domain through an auction. And then when you're looking at the hosting cost, again, it doesn't have to be expensive when you're just dealing with one, but if you have a bigger network, say I mentioned 15 before, this actually fairly small, but if you have a bigger network of like 50 sites, like that's kind of expensive. Again, if you want to keep these sites sort of current, you're going to need to keep adding content on a regular basis. So it does get expensive. For me, the major issue is the risk. So everything takes time, right? And everything costs money. So the guest posting, it took a while to get those links, and it took a while to actually like make everything work and work through the process. But at that point, it's hard to compare, but let's say it's roughly equivalent to do a PBN versus guest posting. One of them is way riskier, and one of them is less risky but takes longer. I'm just more risk averse, so I'll definitely do the less risky one. All right, so this, I believe, concludes most of what we're doing. And yes, that is back to the Q&A. So we're nearly at the top of the hour anyway, and it's good because it's nearly dinner time where I'm at. So question that I could work with Sean on. So Sean's question is, you mentioned a mastermind group earlier. How did you get involved in that? You can hit me up offline, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's interesting. So all the masterminds that I've been a part of, I started them. So I didn't realize it, but I think one of my skills that I need to figure out how to like utilize better is just networking in a way that I like start groups, because I'm actually not that social, and I actually don't particularly enjoy like networking as a practice of networking. Like if you go to a meeting, or if you think back, or if I think back to my corporate days where you go to like an all hands meeting, and you should network with other departments and like get to know people. Like I don't particularly get excited with that. I'm not overly social or outgoing, but for whatever reason, I can bring groups together. So for my mastermind groups, I've been in like 3 main groups. The key thing that I did was like get people that were a little smarter than me together. So, you know what? I was actually in a fourth group also, which funny story. I'll tie it all together in a second. But so the best way to do it is to like start a group yourself, and then you're the hub of it, and you're the person that like brought folks together. And by the way, like if you're pulling together people that are better than you, or maybe some bloggers or something like that, Sean, like you can hook people up that don't know each other, and they're like, oh, like I want to meet John, right? It's a good idea to meet John, and why not have him in the network? So you can pull them into your mastermind group and say, well, I got John and then Matt and Sean. We're going to meet. We're going to focus on, Amazon affiliate sites. We're all making about $100 a month, and we want to grow it. And then from there, you can organize it however you want. Right now, we're just using like a Trello board. Everybody has a card. We have like long-term, short-term goals. And then what else do we have going on? We have a Skype group. And we meet every 2 weeks, I guess. Every now and then we'll push it. But yep, so essentially you should put your own group together. That's the best way to do it. No one's going to come and ask you. You have to do it yourself. And then if you do organize it, then again, you're the hub of like the group. And, it can come with a little additional responsibility, but if you run the group properly, like you alternate or whatever. Or, I mean, you don't even have to take notes, right? Like we manage everything through our Trello board and Trello cards and that sort of stuff. So hopefully that answered your question, Sean. And if I could ask you, because like people are always asking me about groups and just being able to talk to folks. If you want to, I think you could send me a private message, Sean. You can, if you want to tell me like what your Amazon revenue is right now, I can like hook up with people at that level, essentially. Okay. Wendell has a question, and that question is, okay. The question is, rumor is that Amazon is closing accounts for people who do not use the Amazon API to download photos. How do I handle photos in that regard? Amazon's API photos are small when you need product photos. Okay, Wendell, can you tell me about like the rumors, where they originated from, or any other like detailed information? And then the other part is, I think that is like an ongoing thing that I've heard for like at least the last 2.5 years or so. So that is true, at least to some extent. Now the thing is, right? The thing is, most of the time when people get their accounts shut down, they don't know why. And I think a lot of people say that they think it's because of the photos, but they don't know for sure. So it turns out in the terms of service, you should be using the Amazon API photos. I know at least on one of my sites, I'm not doing that, right? So I'm not doing that. The other part is a lot of times, I think most of the time, the image is like from the manufacturer a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times it's from the manufacturer. So like Amazon wouldn't have the copyright to like enforce that. The manufacturer could, but it's unusual. I would say I've never heard of a time where the manufacturer goes after someone for using a photo where they're promoting their product, right? It just doesn't make sense if you think about their incentives. And Wendell mentions Reddit and Quora and Facebook groups. So, okay, I mean, I would say those are kind of rumor mill sort of places, especially like the Facebook groups. However, that is a valid thing. So basically, I try and do my best to like pull it down using the API. You can use something like Easy Azon. Will pull down large images, like huge images. I think it's like 1500 by 1500, but they're large, large enough. And the main problem that I have is not the size of the image. I really don't care if it's small, but it's just like usually there's only like one image that they allow you to get with the API. If you go to the product page, there may be like 15 images, and some of them look really cool. So those are the ones where like I'm probably, not doing the right thing there. So anyway, I hope that answered the question. And the other way to handle it is, it's maybe stupid for me to say, you buy the product, you take your own picture. That's what you could do. Or you just deal with the API photos. Now I will say this: the 500K site that I was mentioning, it's been making 10K a month for like 8 months or something like that. It did really well over the holiday season, the retail months, and those were all the API images, right? It doesn't matter if they're small; it's totally fine. It's everything else, right? It's like if the site's ranking, if the copy is written well, if it's compelling for the visitor to make the purchase and go to Amazon, or go to Amazon and make the purchase, rather. Okay, what other questions do we have? Anything else? This is a good question, Wendell. I actually need to like go to my site and like get the images fixed, Oh, cool. Leo mentions the AWS API offers size options for images. They have small, medium, and large delivered in an array. And that's cool. I didn't know that, but I suppose that is exactly how a tool like Easy Azon pulls the size of the image. Yep, very cool. I don't know what to do with that exactly, but yeah. Nice, Leo. All right. Any other questions out there? Anything else? Cool. And let's see. I think another person may have joined up. No? Okay. And Sean, like I said, if you do want to, shoot me an email later, I could potentially hook you up with, someone that's at the right level that would, want to work in a mastermind group. So, all right. Well, if there's no more questions, and I'll pause, there's a delay here, so I'll pause for a minute or two and just make sure that everyone had a chance to ask whatever it is they want to ask. Anything else? All right, cool. Thanks for stopping by, Leo. I'll catch up with you soon, buddy. And all right, I think that's it. Wendell and Sean and other Sean and Leo, thanks for attending. And we'll catch up with you next time. And have a good night.